Welcome back to the second half of our Herman Tiu Laurel edition of the Talk News TV show on GNN. We've asked Dr. Roger Posadas to help us look deeper into the nuclear alternative for energy and the safe alternative among the nuclear technologies, which is the Thorium reactor, the alternative nuke. Inherently safe, much cheaper, and with raw materials that can be found in the country, with the technology and the fabrication capabilities that can be found within the country. We have some graphs and some graphic aids that Dr. Posadas brought to us to help us understand this. Doc, can you give us an overview of this? Cost advantages come from the size of the thorium
well, you can see that
plants,
the left side of the diagram is a GE advanced boiling water reactor. It's an advanced version of what was used in Fukushima. And then the right-hand side is a simpler a system, the thorium fueled nuclear reactor.
Okay.
And so the thorium reactor can be designed to be smaller, cheaper, although it can also be scaled up to 1,000 megawatts if you need a base load.
1,000 megawatt is 1 gigawatt.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
right.
Okay, let's look at the next graphic tool that Dr. Posadas brought over. Okay, these are comparisons, comparing alternatives. Doc, can you guide us through the three alternatives there?
Yes, this compares the output and the input of coal-fired power plant.
So the extreme left is coal.
Right.
Okay.
And then in the middle you have the uranium-based power plant.
So let's read read some of the characteristics of the uranium power plant. Low CO2 impact.
Right.
But challenges with reprocessing. What is reprocessing? That's the waste when you reprocess.
Because the spent fuel of a uranium-based power plant can be reprocessed to extract the uranium-238, plutonium, etc.
But plutonium, as I've been reading what is happening in Fukushima, says cesium and plutonium are more dangerous than the regular uranium.
Yes, because they're very radioactive. They have health impacts.
Yeah. Okay, and then on the right is the thorium.
Yes.
Again, it's low CO2 impact, can consume plutonium and radioactive waste. What does that mean? Can consume plutonium and radioactive waste?
Well, it can be injected. This radioactive waste can be injected
into it to be burned out,
can be burned off.
Burned off. Eto, balik natin. Anyway, these are more detailed, no? That I extracted from the internet. You have this combination of uranium plus thorium. It's called seed and blanket reactor. The fuel is thorium oxide and uranium oxide rods. Fuel input per gigawatt output is 4.6 tons of raw thorium and 177 tons raw uranium. Annual fuel cost for 1 gigawatt reactor is $50 to $60 million. The coolant is water. Proliferation potential, there is no potential for proliferation, meaning its byproducts cannot be used for nuclear armaments.
Yes.
That's what it means. Huh? And then the footprint, meaning the size of the entire plant would be around 200 to 300,000 per square meter, surrounded by a low-density population zone. As we see in Fukushima, when there's a problem, population is a major concern. So let's go to the uranium reactor. Uranium-fueled light water reactor. The fuel is purely uranium fuel rods. Fuel input per gigawatt output is 250 tons of raw uranium compared to 177 tons of raw uranium and 4.6 tons, 6 tons of thorium in the uranium-thorium reactor. Annual fuel cost for 1 gigawatt hour is $50 to $60 million, same as the uranium-thorium reactor. Its coolant is water, and proliferation potential is medium, meaning it can be used for nuclear weapons, the byproducts. And the footprint, again, the size of the entire plant, of one plant, is around 200 to 300,000 square meter, and same as uranium thorium, it should be low density population. Now we go to thorium. It's a liquid fluoride thorium reactor. We'll ask Dr. Posadas later what liquid fluoride means. Anyway, tuloy natin. Fuel thorium and uranium fluoride solution. That's the fuel. Again, we need some explanation there. What's a uranium fluoride solution? Fuel input per gigawatt output is 1 ton raw thorium. You can see the difference there, in the quantities involved. Annual fuel cost for 1 gigawatt reactor is $10,000 compared to $50 to $60 million for uranium thorium. And for uranium, coolant is self-regulating. That's very interesting. How does that happen? You were trying to explain it earlier. We need to review how it becomes a self-regulating material in terms of temperature. Proliferation potential none, meaning the byproducts cannot be used for nuclear weapons. And the footprint, the size, is only 2,000 to 3,000 square feet with no need for a buffer zone because it's inherently safe, compared to the 200 to 300,000 square feet for the other two uranium-based alternatives. Okay, let me go to the questions I raised earlier. What is liquid fluoride? Fluoride is a salt?
It's a molten salt. So there's a blanket of molten salt where you have the thorium embedded in it. And then the core will be the uranium-233.
So you still have uranium?
Uranium-233.
Okay.
Because what happens is that the blanket of thorium will be the source of uranium-233. The uranium, the blanket of thorium will be bombarded with neutrons to produce protactinium. Protactinium will be extracted and put in a temporary storage until it decays into uranium-233.
Okay.
Then uranium-233 will be injected into the core. And so there's a continuous process. And then some of the radioactive products like xenon can be bubbled out. So some of the products can be extracted while the operation is ongoing.
Okay, it's like French cooking. It's not easy to understand. Okay. Now, so there is no water involved. It doesn't say there's water as a coolant. And again, let's go to the next one. Coolant, self-regulating.
Because
it's still hard to understand
when the chain reaction that goes on in inside the core will produce heat. That heat will be extracted to turn a turbine to generate electricity. And the problem with light water reactors based on uranium is that they have to put coolant to control
the temperature,
to keep it moderate. And so that will need a lot of control rods and so on, coolant system. And when there's a breakdown in the coolant system, that's when problems arise. That's what happened in Fukushima. In this thorium based reactor, when there's an overheating, then you can. There's an inherently safe way of draining out
Yeah.
the
Liquid
uranium
fluoride.
233.
Uranium 233. But it's still there within the liquid fluoride.
Within yes,
yeah, it's
within
there.
the liquid fluoride, you have
Okay.
the
You have
Thorium.
vessels there containing that and
Yes.
separating that, or they're an amalgam of some sort.
you have what you call this.
Chambers.
You need pipes.
Ah,
Okay,
okay,
you
okay.
have nickel alloys to transport the liquefied liquid fluoride.
Yeah.
You need to have nickel alloys because they're resistant to corrosion by
Corrosion,
the
yes,
salt.
Okay, and so the fail-safe mechanism you were trying to explain is that there is a freeze plug.
Freeze plug at the
It
bottom.
it is frozen. That's what it means. Yung freeze.
Yes.
Okay.
When the temperature rises above a certain
Yeah.
level, then that will melt and it will allow the the core to pour into a
And
basin.
when it pours out and it separates, the chain reaction is
Yes.
interrupted. What about this fuel rod system? They have the fuel rods, and then they also lower when they want to shut down the reactor and bring down the temperature. They lower some rods to
Yes, like they lower control rods
control rods to absorb the
to
radiation,
absorb the neutrons.
the neutrons. Yeah,
And therefore to stop the chain reaction.
so in this case, it is not injecting anything, but to disperse
Right.
and separate the materials that is creating the neutrons.
Yeah. In fact, the nice thing about this is when the temperature increases above a certain level, then the chain reaction can be disrupted.
It can be disrupted with or without having the freeze plug
Yes.
melted. It has to melt to disrupt the chain reaction.
Hindi kailangan kasi
Hindi kailangan. Oo.
ibig sabihin pag yung temperature tumataas, nababawasan yung reactivity.
Chain reaction.
Yes.
Which component nagre-reduce ang reactivity? The thorium,
Doon sa uranium 233.
233. But why doesn't that happen? Forgive the questions, but as a layman, just trying to understand, maybe not in one sitting, but bakit doon sa light water reactor hindi nila mapigil yung chain reaction?
Hindi, actually napipigil yun eh.
Pero nauubusan ng tubig in this case, kaya
Naubusan ng tubig. At saka mainit pa rin yung yung mga fuel rods.
oo.
Kaya may mga decay, tinatawag na decay heat. Yung parang may
Yes.
bumabaga pa rin eh.
Bumabaga pa rin. And so, ang problema doon na nawawalan ng tubig, kaya sumusobra na, nag-overheat na. And,
Yes,
they
yung
cannot
tinatawag
control
na meltdown,
Meltdown.
pag nauubusan yon, pero may kahit na wala na yung reaction, bumabaga pa rin yon in a sense.
Okay.
Kaya pwedeng matunaw yung mga fuel rods.
Yeah.
At pwedeng mag-melt through the yung pressure vessel.
Okay, I have several articles actually, but I'll just highlight this one. Can you focus on this? It says safe nuclear does exist, and China is leading the way with thorium. So this is from the Daily Telegraph. I-focus lang natin. Just to show you that this alternative is really being studied by many countries, particularly China and India. And naghahabulan yung dalawa to develop the technology, because once it's perfected, then it can be sold like generators. Yan ang mangyayari. Let's go back to the reason why America, the US of A, did not develop this. It is because they really wanted more weapons grade uranium.
Kasi ang gusto nila, yung uranium cycle that can produce plutonium
Plutonium. Oo.
as a byproduct. And they were interested in plutonium because plutonium is a nice substance for making nuclear weapons. Gustong i-build up ng US ang kanilang nuclear arsenal.
Okay. So, dapat ang sabihin ng US sa Iran is, okay, we'll allow you thorium
Yes.
reactors.
Right.
So long as you don't use uranium reactors. Hindi papayag ang Iran because obviously Iran needs to have a nuclear
Yung plutonium ang
arsenal.
importante.
Kailangan nila may nuclear arsenal. Otherwise, they'll face the same problem as
Yes.
Libya faces now. Ano? Okay, now, I think of interest to our people, I will have another session on geothermal. But dito, discussing this thorium, we can have purely Filipino firms design it and then subcontract it, yung fabrication to Filipino companies. You think that can be done?
Oh yes, because right now, wala pang dominant design do sa thorium technology. In fact, nag-uunahan nga yung India at China to have the dominant design because pag na perfect na at saka napili na yung dominant design ng industry.
Napapatent yan siguro, kaya
Yes.
naghahabalan sila, no?
Pwede yung mass produce ito eh. And it will make it cheaper. You can...
Isn't that one of the reasons why the US of A did not want to develop this too? Because it can really bring down the cost of power and spread it out democratically.
Yeah, tsaka malaki na invested nila sa ano eh, sa
uranium.
Sa uranium based in fact yung I think mga 70 or maybe 90% ng nuclear reactors sa US based on the Westinghouse pressurized water reactor.
So Westinghouse, not GE.
Yung GE kasi boiling water reactor.
That's right.
Ginamit sa
Boiling water
Fukushima.
Yung yung sa 3 Mile Island, was that a pressurized?
Pressurized.
Pressurized yun eh. So parehong nagka-problema na. Do we have a prototype of operating thorium reactor?
Marami sa India, China is building one.
Building lang, hindi pa actually operating.
Yung experimental marami. Sa US, may mga experimental.
When it's experimental, what size is it? A few kilowatts, ganyan?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
10 kilowatts.
Okay. So, I wonder if our sufficient background, but Dr. Posadas, I suppose you have to go on the campaign trail to explain this to more and more people. Because right now, there seems to be a manic reaction, adverse reaction to nuclear power in general, without differentiating the different types
Yes.
of processes. Yeah.
Kasi ako mismo, I'm not too keen about reviving the Bataan nuclear power plant because of the inherent dangers in pressurized water reactors, even boiling water reactors. There are so-called Generation 3 and Generation 4 reactors based on uranium, but still there is the dangers inherent in these kinds of systems.
I read about the pebble bed reactor. I don't know if you've come across it, where the radioactive material or the fuel is encased in balls.
Right.
And
Graphite.
the graphite and some alloy outside, and the method of controlling or disrupting chain reaction is to open a door that releases all the balls and they separate automatically from each other, and therefore disrupting the nuclear reaction. So there are many of these, but given at least the initial understanding I have of thorium, malayo ang thorium reactor. Okay, and so I'm sure we'll have more sessions on this as we go along. Before I go to your, because we missed discussing your leapfrogging paper, Before I go to that, since we have our last few minutes coming up, what else would you want to say about the thorium reactor and the Philippines? I did say that you should go around, and I'll help in explaining this technology. But what else? What about government? Are you talking to government about this, or do you hope government will pay attention to this?
Well, I hope the government and our higher education system will also look into this. Department of Science and Technology should start a research program on this. University of the Philippines should start a degree program on nuclear science and technology.
Didn't we have that before?
We used to have that.
Yeah.
We used to have a nuclear engineering program at UP, but after the Bataan nuclear power plant was mothballed, then UP decided to suspend it or stop it. So we don't have a nuclear engineering program anymore.
Okay, so these are action points that we should bring up and try to see if we can have concrete results in that direction. Right. I really see the world's energy future as a mixed source energy setup. So if thorium, as we go along and study it, really is that safe, I think it can go hand in hand with geothermal, definitely.
Certainly. Yes.
And last question on this thorium. You mentioned the cost comparison per watt or power cost between uranium and thorium. What's the comparison again?
Say for coal, it's about $4.3 dollars per watt for to build a and for a pressurized water reactor about $4 per watt. For a thorium, the estimate is $2
half
per watt.
Well, here we have other costs that we saw earlier, but we're running out of time. So give us an update on your paper for leapfrogging the scientific and technological gap, the national strategy for mastering the future. Have you been given an ear on this paper?
Well, as you can see, we have missed many opportunities for leapfrogging. I've been saying that we should go into designing and building a Philippine electric car as to be able to leapfrog the old technology that we've missed based on the internal combustion engine. But again, we've been left in the race for an electric car. Here's another opportunity where we can leapfrog, go into a thorium fueled reactor before others leave us behind again.
Okay, well, we'll have more opportunities to discuss these things. I'm sure we help the public gain different or see a different angle to this nuclear power in this episode of ours. And we hope people start or stop shooting from the hip at nuclear power and see that there is a broader horizon really ahead. With that, we'll thank our guest, Doc. Maraming salamat. Finally, we have you as a guest again. And until our next episode with equally enriching discussions, thank you and have a good week.
Thank you.
So.